Hello, everyone. Today we are going to talk about one of the most important amendments in the history of the Indian Constitution, the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, 1976, popularly known as the Mini Constitution of India. So listen carefully till the end because we will also do a quick revision at the end. First, let us understand the background. Between 1975 and 1977, India was under the national emergency. During this period, the government led by Prime Minister Indira Gandhi decided to make large-scale changes to the constitution. As a result, in the year 1976, the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act was passed. Now, why is it called the Mini Constitution? Because this single amendment changed a very large number of provisions in the Constitution. Many parts, articles, and schedules were amended at the same time. That is why scholars started calling it the Mini Constitution of India. Let us start with the changes in the Preamble. Before the 42nd Amendment, the Preamble described India as a sovereign democratic republic. The 42nd Amendment added three important words: socialist secular unity and integrity of the nation. After this amendment, the preamble reads, Sovereign Socialist Secular Democratic Republic. These words show India's commitment to social justice, religious neutrality, and national unity. Next important feature, fundamental duties. Before 1976, the Constitution mentioned only fundamental rights. The 42nd Amendment introduced fundamental duties for citizens. A new part called Part 4A was added. Under this part, Article 51A lists the fundamental duties. Examples include respecting the Constitution and national flag, protecting the environment, promoting harmony, safeguarding public property. This was inspired by the Constitution of the Soviet Union. Now let us discuss the increase in parliamentary powers. The 42nd Amendment strengthened the position of Parliament. It stated that Parliament has the power to amend any part of the Constitution. Courts were not allowed to question constitutional amendments. This promoted the idea of parliamentary supremacy. At the same time, the powers of the judiciary were reduced. The power of courts to review laws and constitutional amendments, called judicial review, was restricted. High courts were also restricted in issuing writs. This weakened the independence of the judiciary. Next comes an important concept: directive principles versus fundamental rights. Before the 42nd Amendment, fundamental rights had priority. But the 42nd Amendment declared that directive principles of state policy are superior to fundamental rights. This meant that if a law is made to implement directive principles, it cannot be challenged even if it violates fundamental rights. Later, this change was reversed. Another major change: extension of the tenure of legislatures. The term of Lok Sabha and state legislative assemblies was increased from 5 years to 6 years. This was done during the emergency period. Later, this provision was cancelled. The amendment also promoted centralization of power. More powers were given to the central government. The role of states was relatively reduced. India moved more towards a strong centralized system. The 42nd Amendment also made changes in administrative and service matters, strengthened the executive, and attempted to limit challenges to government actions. Overall, the amendment aimed to make the government more powerful and reduce institutional checks and balances. Because many of these changes were considered excessive, a new government came to power after the emergency. In 1978, the 44th Constitutional Amendment Act was passed. This amendment restored judicial review, priority of fundamental rights, 5-year tenure of legislatures, and limited the scope of emergency powers. So today, when we study the 42nd Amendment, we should remember two things. 1. It brought historic and wide-ranging changes. 2. Many of its controversial provisions were later corrected. Quick revision. 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, 1976. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, nicknamed Mini Constitution, added words to Preamble, socialist, secular, integrity, introduced fundamental duties. Increased parliamentary power, reduced judicial review, tenure changed 5 years to 6 years, later reversed. In conclusion, the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act stands as a landmark in India's constitutional history. If you understand this amendment clearly, you will find many polity questions much easier. Thank you for watching. Keep studying, keep progressing.